Hey everyone, welcome to a new video, welcome to my channel. My name is Micah, welcome to my hobby channel, Floating in Dreams, where I like to talk to you guys about a bit of fashion, a bit of makeup, and today I have another makeup related video for you. As you can tell from the title, we are going to be ranking my rainbow palettes. I already ranked my pastel palettes as well as all of my purple palettes, so I think I'm creating a little bit of a series here where I'm ranking all of my colorful palettes, it seems. So today we are doing that with rainbow palettes because I felt it's summer. At least here in the Netherlands, it's definitely been summer. So what better time to be wearing rainbow palettes than this time of year? I mean, I think that if you are not per se like a lover of anything bright, then if you do want to try it, then this is the season. I'm wearing a completely different palette today, by the way. That's not one of the palettes I will be ranking. This is the BH Cosmetics Sweet Shot Pistachio palette. I always link everything in the description box below what makeup I'm wearing as well. So if you ever want to know what it is I've got on my face, then just check that out. So I've got 10 palettes I'm going to be ranking for you today. However, I have one extra palette that I won't be featuring in the ranking. And if you've been following my channel for a while, then you know that I do own a few Jeffree Star palettes. So people who have been following me may be wondering, hey, where's your Jawbreaker? In case you've never seen this before, this is what it looks like. But for obvious reasons, even though I still own this palette, I don't want to promote this brand, so that's why I'm not featuring it in any of my videos in terms of like actually talking about it. So that's why that palette is not in the ranking. But I know some of you know I have this, so that's why I do want to be fully transparent. But let's just get to the ranking. So I actually kept a couple of palettes around from my most recent declutter. So some of these may look a little trashy by now, but there were a couple of rainbow palettes that I felt just really weren't my thing, and that's why those are also going to be ranked at the bottom. So this may come as no surprise to you if you have been following me for a while, but this is my number 10 spot rainbow palette. This is the Glamlite Cake palette. I still have the packaging because I thought it was cute, and because what you will see once we get to the other palettes that I have, one thing that I was really looking for was a rainbow palette that had some good shimmers. And now I hear a lot of people raving about Glamlite shimmers, so I was like, great, I am going to be buying myself this rainbow palette and see what the fuss is all about. I had never tried Glamlite before. I think the packaging and, you know, the way this is all set up is a bit gimmicky for me, I have to say. These palettes are also quite big, and I have to say that I did have fun playing with this palette. However, this palette just doesn't suit my personal makeup aesthetic. And even though many people love this and put it as their top palette of 2020 in a lot of their finally like end of year rankings, for me this is somewhere at the bottom, and that's why I ended up decluttering it. I had issues with some of the shades in here, and the shades I had issues with were the shades I bought the palette for. So for me, the successful shades were mainly on this part of the palette. So this half of the palette, which is more like neutrally leaning, and shades that I think you can find in many different brands, even though this does have a yellow shimmer, which is quite nice. I quite enjoyed this shimmer, and Peach is the shade in the palette that is just out of this world amazing. But I bought this palette because of these three shimmers at the top, this shimmer right here, and then those lovely like minty, greeny, lavendery, purpley shades. And those weren't that great. This shade Lavender, I had to layer 4 times, and it didn't even approach what it looks like in the pan. It was very sheer. I couldn't really get it to stick to my eye very well. Icy Mint was another problematic shade for me, and I think it has to do with my undertone. As I was blending this out, and I actually had the same issue with Key Lime, so as I was blending it out, it turned muddy, which is really weird with a bright shade like this, but it's not uncommon with shades like this, if they don't really match your skin coloring, that they can look a little grayish or muddy once you start blending and shearing them out. And I felt that some of the shades in this palette did that. And this palette has the kind of pigment where you go kapow and then you need to blend for days. And that is not what I prefer. I prefer a more buildable formula. So that's what you also see me ranking as more highly. I don't want a formula where the pigment is so intense that if I get it in a wrong spot, my entire makeup look is ruined, and I feel that this is what that palette does for me. I am someone who just does our makeup at 7 a.m. in the morning, earlier sometimes even, and it's just, you know, you don't want to, like when you're like half focused, it's just not the kind of palette to reach for. This is the kind of palette where I feel I need to spend a lot of time on my eyeshadow in order for it to look good, and that is why I feel that with my preferences and what I love, this palette had to go into the bottom spot. My number 9 spot is another one that if you saw my declutter, you probably will have seen coming, but the Juvia's Place Warrior 3 is a rainbow color story that by now looks like this, because I took 2 of the shades out, because the 2 shimmers, there's a blue shimmer and like a grayish purpley bluey flippy shimmer in the middle that I took out and that I repressed into smaller pans, and they now are part of my singles collection. So I still have the shades that I like this palette for, but the mattes in here, again, my undertone and this palette, we just didn't really go together, people. It's really, really warm, and then the shimmers were really cool toned, so I didn't really see how the shimmers went with the rest of the palette. And also for me, like some of these shades, like these 2 shades I found were too similar once I put them on my eyes. I quite like the purple in here, but then again, what does the green go with? You know, apart from the yellow and the blue, I don't really see it going with anything else. So for me, this palette just really wasn't my favorite. Not because of the quality, it has lovely quality. It's just the color story didn't really come together for me. Even though I was able to pull some stunning looks out of this, I just felt I wasn't inspired to reach for this again, which is why I decluttered it, took the shades out that I loved, and that's it. Number 8 is the palette that I almost decluttered, but if you saw my declutter, it was the palette that I decided to keep because I felt, well, if I get rid of those 2 and with everything else that I have that is rainbow, I could justify keeping it for another round, and that is the Ace Beauté Slice of Paradise palette. Now their Oceanic I love. The Oceanic palette by Ace Beauté is my favorite blue-green palette, and this is what the Slice of Paradise looks like. Now, this was an entire set of 4, and I think that the color stories of those palettes are really lovely. The reason why I didn't get any of the other ones is because this formula just isn't perfect. And I've said this many times before, but this formula bled on me when I applied it to my lower lash line. Top lash line, no problem, like top lid, it blended nicely, stayed put in the crease just fine. But right here, I don't know what happens because I don't have very oily eyelids at all, but these shades bled. And what do I mean by that? Maybe you've experienced this with a lipstick before, where you put the lipstick on and then as it wears down, it starts to pull into all of those like lines. And I felt that this is what happened to this eyeshadow. It kind of pulled into lines, it kind of smudged everywhere, and I have never tried an eyeshadow that did anything like that before. So this is the kind of shadow that just didn't look great throughout the day. So I just know that if I want to use this palette, I shouldn't put it anywhere on my bottom lash line and I'm fine. It does have a really stunning, like really nice green shimmer. That's the reason why I want to keep this palette around for. Plus it has a really good orange as well, which oranges in rainbow palettes, for some reason, they aren't always that great. The red in here is quite nice. This green is quite nice. I like how you get a peach, so you get something a little bit more neutral to sort of build up the look if you don't want to make it too colorful, and then you still get the colorful shades that it has. So I love the color story. There are definitely a couple of standout shades in this one. It's just that I have some issues with the formula depending on where I place them, and that's a bit of a shame, but I know I can make this work, and the shades are very vibrant and lovely. So the Ace Beauté was my number 8 spot. My number 7 spot goes out to a very old palette that you can no longer buy, but this is the Urban Decay Full Spectrum. This was my first ever rainbow palette, which is why it's going to get to stay. It is Urban Decay as well. Like, if you don't know anything about me, I like Urban Decay palettes and their formula. However, the reason why I'm ranking this in the lower end of this ranking is because it has a couple of dud shades. And I know a lot of people wrote this off because everybody was super happy when this came out. Like, ooh, Urban Decay is finally doing a rainbow palette. And I know this palette was a letdown to a lot of people. It wasn't to me because I hadn't tried, like at the time this was released, like Sugar Pill was like the be all and end all of like colorful eyeshadows. And these are not like that. But Sugar Pill also has this like boom pigment and then you need to blend for days kind of formula, which is not my cup of tea. So I'm glad I went with this as my first rainbow purchase. What this palette is so great at and why I still like this and why I still feel it has merit and what I've always appreciated is the gradient. You get a full row of like rainbow, sort of like, well, they're not all mattes, which is another reason why a lot of people didn't like this because they felt they didn't have enough mattes. But you get these more vibrant shades in the middle, and then you get more like a pastel rendition of that, and then you get a more jewel toned rendition of that. And that's what I like, because you get a lot of versatility in this. And one gripe I have with a lot of rainbow palettes is that they essentially only do one thing. So that's why I don't love them. However, this shade, Jones, you can just like scratch because it doesn't show up at all. And also this really nice periwinkle shade, which they repeated in their Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass palette, which is called Metamorphosis. It's a really stunning periwinkle, but it has trouble showing up. However, I have a Kiko eyeshadow stick, like a cream shadow, that's exactly this shade. So what I've always done is that I just layer that shadow over that eyeshadow stick and I'm fine. So it is a palette that again needs a little bit of work, but it is a very buildable formula, which is what I prefer. And save for those two shades, I feel this works really well. And what I like is that you can just like stick to the row and you've got an all purple look. You can combine the blues and the purples together and you've got a look. So I really enjoy this. I think this is still a really, really good purchase on my behalf. I'm still very happy I own this. And yeah, I wish more people loved this. So number 6 goes out to another more like mainstream brand, and that's Huda Beauty's Electric Obsessions. I know that a lot of people have been decluttering their original Obsessions palettes, and I do think that the quality of these mini Huda palettes has gone up as time has progressed. However, of the original lineup, I've got the like the gemstone obsessions. I've got a couple of those, but of the black packaging, I've only ever tried this one. I never got the mauve one, or what else did they do in that line? I don't remember, but this is the only one I got. And the reason why I keep this around, is it a full-on rainbow? Or is it just a bright palette? You know, it's kind of borderline because I feel it doesn't have a really good matte blue, but it does have a matte teal. And the teal is really, really nice. So that's why I can't get rid of this. I really like some of the shimmers that this has. I do wish, as I do with a lot of these mini palettes from Huda, that even though you only get 9 shades, she insists on putting 2 shades in that are renditions of the same thing. So I have that issue with the Amethyst Obsessions. I have that issue with a lot of the mini palettes from Huda. So I wish that perhaps this was a bit different because I feel it's too close to the red. Like for me, there's not enough distinction there. So it would have been nice if that could have been like a vibrant pink shimmer, and then I would have liked this a lot better because you only get 3 shimmers, everything else is matte, and we all know that I'm a shimmer girl at heart. So that's why I do want my bright palettes to have a bit of shimmer as well. So we're moving on to the top 5, and my number 5 palette would be the September Rose Cosmetics Slush 2 palette. And this is a matte rainbow color story from an UK indie brand. And this is a lovely, lovely quality palette. Not all of the shades are like great when you swatch them, but I find that with a brush and you take a bit of time to build them up, they work really well. And like with the Urban Decay, this goes from deep to light, so you do get some versatility so that even though this is a full-on matte palette, you can still make it work to create different looks. However, I would have liked to see some shimmer in here, which is why it goes into the number 5 spot. However, I feel that in terms of quality, there are no dud shades in this. I have no issues with this color story not working for me. Because you do get a lot of variety. Like you can stick to a row if you'd like, just like with the Urban Decay, you've got a look. But what I like to do with this palette, and also its sister palette that's still coming up, is that I like to bounce around and sort of create like sunset eyes with this. It's the best. These palettes are really, really great, and you've got some lovely shades, and this navy is out of this world. In a similar vein, but that I rank just a little bit more highly than this Slush 2 from September Rose Cosmetics, in my number 4 spot is the Certifeye Tropical Wonders palette. Now, Certifeye is doing a massive sale currently because they're announcing that they're going to be revamping their line. So I'm not sure how long this is going to be staying around for. And this was, I think, the first like all matte rainbow palette that I tried and that I also really, really loved. What I appreciate a lot about this palette, it gives you a really good spectrum of shades. And I like this a little bit better than the September Rose one because it has a couple of shades here that I just love. Even though it's not a straight up orange, I love Toucan. It's like my favorite shade in this entire palette, which is strange because oranges and me, we don't really go together. But this is an orange that I like. You get some like murky, neutrally kind of shades that really allow you to play with this palette and sort of take it into many different directions. Whereas the Slush 2 just has brights and a white, and that's about it. You get a gray in here as well, you get a black. So you've got something to deepen things up and do things with. But I really like these 3 greens and then that purple with the blues. Like it just... the way this combined, it was just divine. So that's why this had to go into the number 4 spot. And then time for the top 3. And I really I don't know, the first 2 I knew instantly, like, yes, those have to be my top 2. But this one sort of came as a surprise to me, but I'm like, yeah, out of all of my rainbow palettes, I feel this is a very overlooked palette that needs a bit more hype. I'm not even sure if this is still available, but this is the LA Splash Classic Horror Palette. Now I keep it in a sleeve because... is it upside down? It's upside down. Do you just see that? I love that palette. So it's got all of these like zombie, steampunky ladies on here, and then it has a rainbow color story in this really fun holographic packaging. And the reason why I wanted to rank this so highly, it's got the best periwinkle shade out of all of these palettes. In terms of brights, periwinkle is one of my favorites. So this is a lovely, lovely shade, and I just love it. And this palette is just a bit more unique. Yes, it is a rainbow color story, but it isn't a bright rainbow color story. In the pan, these look a lot brighter than they are when they go on. And I like that because I like a bit of grunge. I like a bit of a murky factor to my eyeshadows, and that's exactly what this palette has. So this green, it's just not as vibrant. Everything in here has a deliberate muddy undertone. And that's why I feel that in terms of like bright rainbow colors, this works a lot better on me because it's not too stark. With rainbow shades, it can just look so intense, and this gives you that nicely sort of in between. And I just wanted to rank this because the quality is on point. It's really, really good quality, and I just don't hear people talking about it. So I was like, I need to make a change there. Did you guess it? Yeah, of course, my top 2 has to be my top 2 favorites, which is bright rainbow palettes, but with shimmers, because those have to go on top. We've got the Zulu from Juvia's in number 2 for that reason. Again, I like this palette. Is it a full-blown rainbow? It's borderline, I'd say. Because you don't really get a red, you only get this like pinky shade, but I feel that that's why these shades do combine. Where I feel the Warrior 3, I had issues putting certain shades together. With this, I felt that was less of an issue because some of these shades are more like in-betweeny kind of shades. They aren't primary colors, and for me, that is key when it comes to like bright rainbow palettes. I have found so if you get those primary colors, it just becomes a little bit more difficult to make good transitions because everything is like so starkly opposed to one another. And that's why I do like this palette a lot. You get a brown and you get this like peachy goldy shade. It's sort of like NARS Orgasm blush, but then as an eyeshadow and super intense. So you can make a neutral look with this, especially if you like pull in that yellow to blend out the brown a little bit with. Like you can just do a warm tone neutral look, really, with the orange, the yellow, the peach, and the brown. And then you get these fun shimmers to play with. I love how the purple and the pink and the peach compare, but you can also combine the purple with these like aqua kind of shades. The green is really nicely with the yellow and the orange. Like here, it's just like you can just create so many different looks. I do believe this has been discontinued. These 9 pans from Juvia's place, they seem to be disappearing from their website. So get it while I can if you were interested in this, because the Zulu, till this day, if I think I want to make a rainbow palette, this is the palette I think of, and my number one. It's just the way it is. And my number one eyeshadow palette is the Slush one from September Rose Cosmetics. This is my favorite rainbow palette. It is my favorite bright palette because it has just the best color story ever. This is the reason why I rank the Slush 2 lower down, because it's all matte and it's more like primary color leaning, whereas this has those in-betweeny shades that I like so much. So again, you don't get a full-on red in here. You don't get a like super vibrant like grass green either, even though you do get those vibrant shades. So I feel this works really well. And is it every column? No, I think you get six shimmers and everything else is matte. So you do get some shimmers to build a look around, which I appreciate. So you get a shimmer here, you get a shimmer here, you get a shimmer here, a shimmer here, and a shimmer here. And they are the kind of shimmers that I would like to play with, so that's great. Some of these shades do have, some of the shades in this palette do have a bit of glitter to them to help them blend. And this, again, like the Slush 2, does have a couple of shades that need a bit of work to get them to show up. For instance, that periwinkle, unfortunately. But I feel that this has all the bright shades I need, and on my fair skin, this looks stunning. In case you've ever wondered what makeup I'm wearing in the little icon that is on my channel, so the little eye and the icon, it was created with this. This is the palette I'm wearing, and it was just super easy to blend. And I think that if you are fair-skinned and you want to wear bright colors, but those really stark primary colors look a bit weird on you, then definitely check out the Slush palette, because the Slush palette, I feel, is the bright palette for people who don't like bright colors. That's just the way I feel. Really nice, super blendable, easy to build up formula. You do need to sort of like figure out some of the shades and layer them and like go in with a blending brush a few times to make them look nice. So it is a palette that needs a bit more work, but it's so stunning that I don't mind putting in the work. And that's what's important. Alright, so those are the 10 palettes that I wanted to rank for you in today's video. I really hope you enjoyed watching today's video and that it was helpful if you are making decisions what rainbow palette to get and what my preferences are in terms of like eyeshadow palettes that are rainbow color stories, what is out there and what you might like to get. Of course, I haven't tried every single rainbow palette on the planet, but I feel that with rainbow palettes, you kind of don't have to try them all, because essentially a rainbow is a rainbow. Kinda. Of course, I did also try some more pastel rainbow palettes, because we have those as well. But anything I already mentioned in my pastels video, I didn't want to like double up again in today's video. If you do have any recommendations of rainbow palettes that I need to try, let me know in a comment down below. I'd be curious to see what your recommendations are. And then, yeah, that's it. Without further ado, I'd like to thank you very much for watching today's video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more by me. I make 3 new videos a week. So I hope to see you in my next one. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.